locked away for 1,000 years. A world without evil. Sounds perfect, right? But then God lets Satan loose again. Why? The answer lies with Abaddon, a mysterious angel whose story will shock you. Who is this enigmatic figure? Abaddon appears throughout the Bible, from Job to Revelation. His role evolves in surprising ways. When you understand his part in God's plan, you'll see why those 1,000 years and what happens next matter so much. Ready to uncover the truth about Abaddon? Stay tuned for a journey that will change how you see good, evil, and God's ultimate plan. But before we start with the video, comment down. I repel all the negative energy of Satan to ensure you are Christ-loving people. The dark angel Abaddon has puzzled Bible scholars for centuries. At first glance, he seems like a force of pure destruction. But as we dig deeper into the scriptures, we start to see a more complex picture emerge. In the Old Testament, Abaddon starts as a shadowy concept, a realm of destruction that struck fear into the hearts of ancient Israelites. It's a place where hope fades and darkness rules supreme. Job 26:6 paints a chilling picture. Sheol is naked before God, and Abaddon has no covering. This verse reveals Abaddon as a place of complete exposure, where even the darkest secrets are laid bare. But Abaddon doesn't stay a mere location. Like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, this concept evolves throughout the Bible. In Job 28:22, we hear whispers of life. Destruction and death say, "We have heard a report about it with our ears." Suddenly, Abaddon isn't just a place, it's a living, breathing entity. The mystery deepens in Proverbs 15:11.
Sheol and Abaddon lie open before the Lord. How much more the hearts of the children of man.
Here, Abaddon stands on equal footing with Sheol, the realm of the dead. It's an insatiable force, always hungry for more destruction. Yet, amid this terrifying image, a glimmer of hope appears. Psalm 88:11 asks,
Is your steadfast love declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Abaddon?
This question challenges our understanding. Is Abaddon truly beyond God's reach? Or is there more to this story? The answer lies in the New Testament, where Abaddon's true nature is revealed. Revelation 9:11 introduces us to a transformed Abaddon.
They have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he is called Apollyon.
This revelation changes everything. Abaddon isn't just a concept or a place. He's an angel with a crucial role in God's plan. He's tasked with imprisoning Satan himself for 1,000 years. The very being associated with destruction throughout the Old Testament becomes the one God chooses to lock up the ultimate evil. It's like fighting fire with fire, using a force of destruction to contain an even greater destructive force. This unexpected twist raises so many questions. Why would God use a destructive force to protect his creation? What does this tell us about the nature of good and evil? And most importantly, what happens during those 1,000 years when Satan is locked away? The answers to these questions will shake your understanding of God's plan to its very core. But to fully grasp the implications, we need to take a closer look at what the Bible says about this 1,000-year period. What will the world look like with Satan out of the picture? And why does God allow him to be released after a millennium of peace? The New Testament completely transforms Abaddon's role. This once feared destroyer becomes an unlikely protector. How could God change such a terrifying force? Revelation 9:11 introduces Abaddon as the angel of the bottomless pit. But here's the surprise. He's not Satan's ally. He's God's agent. This former symbol of destruction now has a new purpose that will challenge everything you knew about God's plan. Abaddon, also called Apollyon in Greek, leads an army of locusts unlike anything you've seen before. The Bible paints a vivid picture.
They looked like horses ready for battle. They wore golden crowns, had human faces, and women's hair. Their teeth were like lion's fangs, and their chests were covered in iron armor. Their wings roared like an army of horse-drawn chariots charging into war.
Revelation 9:7-9. Why such a frightening description? These locusts aren't here to eat crops. They have a specific target, people, but not just anyone. They can only harm those without God's seal on their foreheads. Abaddon's new role is like a supernatural prison warden. He contains evil and carries out focused judgment. His locusts torture, but don't kill. It's as if God is giving people one last chance to turn back to Him. This shift teaches us something important about God's nature. Even in judgment, there's mercy. The locusts cause suffering, but with a purpose. It's not random destruction anymore. It's a targeted wake-up call that spares the faithful. But Abaddon's biggest job is yet to come. The Bible says Satan will be bound for 1,000 years. Guess who's in charge of keeping him locked up? That's right, Abaddon. The destroyer becomes the jailer, making sure evil itself stays contained. This change in Abaddon is mind-blowing. It shows that in God's hands, even the scariest powers can be used for good. But here's what most people miss. Abaddon's new role isn't just about punishment. It's about protection. By judging those who reject God and containing evil, Abaddon is actually guarding the faithful. This transformation reflects a bigger theme in the Bible. God can use anything, even forces we might think of as dark, to fulfill His plan. It's a powerful reminder that God's ways are more complex than we often realize. But if Abaddon is now God's agent, keeping Satan locked up, what does that mean for the world? What happens during those 1,000 years when evil is contained? And why does it have to end? These questions make us think about the nature of good and evil. If God can turn a destroyer into a protector, what else might He be capable of? How might He be working in ways we don't expect, even now? A world without Satan's whispers. For 1,000 years, that's exactly what happens. Abaddon, once a force of destruction, becomes the key to a millennium of peace. But even in this perfect world, something's still not right. During this 1,000-year lockdown, Satan is bound and thrown into a bottomless pit. Revelation 20 tells us it's a desolate place, void of life and light. Jeremiah 4:23 describes it as a world turned upside down, empty and dark. It's like hitting the reset button on evil's influence. The world transforms in ways we can barely imagine. Isaiah 11:6-9 paints a picture of lions and lambs napping together, children playing with cobras. Wars cease. Hunger vanishes. The earth itself seems to breathe a sigh of relief. Justice becomes the new normal. Christ reigns on earth, bringing about a transformation that touches every aspect of life. Peace isn't just a dream anymore. It's the daily reality. It's as if creation itself is celebrating the absence of evil. But here's where things get interesting. Even in this perfect world, people are still people. They're born with a sinful nature, just like we are today. It's as if God is running a grand experiment. What happens when you remove Satan's influence but keep human nature intact? The results are surprising. Even without the devil whispering in their ears, people still struggle with sin? It's a stark reminder that our biggest enemy isn't some external force. It's the darkness within our own hearts. Living in a world without evil has a profound impact on people's psyche. Many experience a deep sense of peace and contentment they've never known before. But others struggle with the lack of challenges, feeling a strange emptiness where conflict used to be. This perfect world isn't meant to last forever, though. After 1,000 years, something shocking happens. Satan is released. But why? Why would God allow evil to return after such a long period of peace? The answer reveals something profound about human nature and God's plan. This millennium of peace sets the stage for one final test. It's as if God is saying, "You've seen what life can be like under my rule. You've experienced true peace and justice. Now, what will you choose?" Sadly, even after 1,000 years of perfect rule, many still choose rebellion. It's a heartbreaking reminder of how deeply sin has corrupted us. But it also highlights the incredible patience and love of God. He gives humanity every chance to choose Him, even when He knows many won't. As the millennium draws to a close, tension builds. What will happen when Satan is released? How will people who have only known peace react to the presence of evil? The stage is set for a cosmic showdown that will determine the fate of humanity once and for all. Just when you think you understand God's plan, He does something unexpected. The release of Satan after 1,000 years of peace is a shocking twist that makes us question everything. Why would God let loose the very enemy He worked so hard to contain? This decision reveals a hard truth about human nature. Revelation 27:8 tells us,
When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and to gather them for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore.
Satan's deception is swift and effective. He uses lies and half-truths to sway people's hearts, gathering an army as vast as the sand on the seashore. This final test is like a crucial exam that reveals what's really in our hearts. Even after living in a perfect world under Christ's rule, some people still choose to rebel. But not everyone falls for Satan's lies. Many remain faithful to God, having experienced His goodness firsthand. Their loyalty shines bright against the darkness of rebellion. These faithful ones prove that true righteousness isn't about perfect surroundings. It's about choosing God when we have the option not to. Why does God allow this rebellion? It's not because He wants anyone to fail. Instead, it shows that His judgments are fair. Those who rebel do so by their own choice, not because they were tricked or didn't know better. This final test proves that sin is deeply rooted in human hearts, not just a result of Satan's influence. Revelation 29 describes the outcome.
They marched across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of God's people, the city He loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them.
God's judgment is swift and final, protecting those who stayed faithful and setting the stage for something greater. This moment also highlights God's incredible grace. Despite knowing some would reject Him, He still gave humanity 1,000 years of peace. It shows how deep God's love and patience run. The release of Satan isn't a step backward. It's moving us forward to the ultimate conclusion of God's plan. It prepares the way for the final judgment and the creation of a new heaven and earth. In this new world, those who've chosen God will live with Him forever, free from the possibility of sin or rebellion. This final test reveals something profound about human nature and God's character. It shows that true righteousness isn't about living in perfect conditions, but about choosing God even when we have the option not to. It demonstrates that God's justice is perfect and His love is unfailing, even in the face of massive rebellion. As we consider this future event, we're challenged to examine our own faith. How can we prepare our hearts now for that final test? What does it mean to truly choose God? Not just when things are easy, but when real temptation comes. The final act of this cosmic drama unfolds with a scene more shocking than you could ever imagine. It's the Great White Throne Judgment, where every soul who's ever lived faces their ultimate fate. And at the center of it all, Abaddon. Once a force of destruction, Abaddon now plays a crucial role in God's perfect justice. This isn't just any courtroom. It's a cosmic court of law where God Himself presides as judge. Every person who has ever lived stands before the throne, their lives laid bare. Revelation 20:12 tells us,
"And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened."
These books contain the records of our lives, every thought, every action exposed before the Creator. But there's another book, the Book of Life. This holds the names of those who've put their faith in Jesus, not based on good deeds, but on grace alone. Abaddon's role intensifies as he opens the lake of fire for those whose names aren't in the Book of Life. Revelation 20:15 states,
"Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire." The lake of fire is the second death. Anyone whose name was not found written in the Book of Life was thrown into the lake of fire.
This judgment isn't just about punishment. It's perfect justice. Every secret comes to light. Every injustice is addressed. It's like the ultimate setting things right. Abaddon, once a destroyer, now ensures everything aligns with God's will. But why should this matter to you right now? Because this future event has real implications for how we live today. Knowing we'll stand before God one day should change how we treat others and the choices we make. It's like knowing you've got a big test coming up. You don't wait until the night before to start studying. You prepare every day. Yet there's hope. The Book of Life isn't closed yet. Anyone who puts their faith in Jesus is saved. It's not about perfection, but accepting Jesus' perfect sacrifice. Abaddon's transformation from destructor to agent of justice shows the power of redemption. No one is beyond hope. No one is too far gone. As we go about our lives, this final judgment should guide our actions, not out of fear, but out of a desire to honor God. Because one day, we'll all stand before that throne. What will be written in your book? This judgment isn't just about your individual actions. It's about the ripple effect of your life. How have your choices impacted others? Have you spread kindness or hurt? Have you pointed people towards God or away from Him? So as we live each day, let's keep this final scene in mind. Not out of fear, but out of a desire to live in a way that honors God. Because when that day comes, wouldn't you want to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant"? Abaddon's story isn't just ancient history. It's a mirror reflecting our daily lives. Every choice we make echoes the ultimate decision humanity will face. Will we follow God's path or turn away? The millennium shows us something surprising. Even in perfect conditions, some people still rebel against God. This proves that a flawless environment isn't enough to change hearts. The real change must come from within us. Think about your everyday decisions. When you choose forgiveness over bitterness, kindness over selfishness, or faith over fear, you're building a character aligned with God's will. These choices might seem small, but they're shaping your eternal destiny. The Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 6:2, "Now is the time of God's favor. Now is the day of salvation." This verse isn't talking about a one-time decision. It's about the choices we make every single day. Why does this matter so much? Because our daily decisions are like building blocks. Each act of faith, each moment of obedience, they're all stacking up, creating the person we're becoming. And just like a building, our character can't stand strong if it's built on shaky foundations. Abaddon's role in the final judgment challenges us to look deep into our hearts. Are we truly living for God, or just going through the motions? It's easy to say, "We believe," but do our actions match our words? The final rebellion after the millennium teaches us a crucial lesson. External perfection isn't enough. Even in a world without war or hunger, people still turn away from God. This shows us that the real battlefield is in our minds and hearts. So what does this mean for you today? It means that every choice matters. When you're tempted to lie, cheat, or hurt others, you're facing the same decision that people will face at the end of time. Will you choose God's way, or will you rebel? But don't let this overwhelm you. Instead, let it inspire you. God's mercy is available right now. We don't have to wait for a perfect world to start living for Him. We can make that choice today and every day after. Abaddon's story shows us something amazing about God's character. Even this angel of destruction becomes an instrument of God's justice. This reminds us that God can use anything, even the things we fear, for His purposes. Take a moment to reflect. How do your daily decisions align with God's will? Are you building a character that will stand firm in the face of temptation, or are you laying a shaky foundation that could crumble when tested? The reality of the final judgment isn't meant to scare us. It's meant to motivate us. It reminds us that our choices have eternal consequences, but it also reminds us of God's incredible mercy. He's giving us chance after chance, day after day, to choose His way. So, what will you choose today? Will you live with eternity in mind? Will you let the reality of the final judgment shape your daily decisions? Remember, every moment is an opportunity to align your heart with God's will. You know, we've just scratched the surface of how Satan works in our world. And what we've shared with you today about Abaddon and our daily choices is just the beginning. But there's something even more shocking we need to share with you. Did you know that Satan's tricks aren't new at all? In fact, he's been using the same playbook for thousands of years. And here's the wild part. These tricks are actually written down in the Bible itself. That's right. God gave us a heads up about Satan's secret moves over 3,000 years ago. Want to know what these tricks are? How Satan might be using them in your life right now, without you even knowing it? We've done deep research into these ancient warnings, and what we found honestly left us speechless. If you're ready to uncover these hidden traps and learn how to protect yourself and your loved ones, click on the video appearing on your screen right now. Trust us, what you'll learn in that video could change everything about how you see the spiritual battles in your life.